report. Let's get some analysis. Harry Kazianis joins us. He's from the Center for the National Interest. Harry, thanks for being with us. Is this Kim Jong-un once again just doing what he wants to do? One of his wins?
I think what this is really is Kim Jong-un actually displaying new technology that North Korea has come out with just recently. Reports are just breaking, actually, as we speak, that this North Korean missile launch actually has two very interesting components. First, the missile is actually on a mobile launcher, or something that's called a TEL, which basically is a big truck that can transport these missiles very long distances. That poses problems for the United States and its allies if they were ever to try to take these missiles out in some sort of military confrontation. The second thing we have to look at is the North Koreans used solid fuel. Now, that might not seem like a big deal to me or you or anybody else, but that really compresses the amount of time that they would need to launch a weapon. If they use liquid fuel, for example, that can really push the envelope. It could take them actually days to launch a missile. So the things that were displayed in this missile launch are very significant, and they show Donald Trump that he has a lot more to worry about when it comes to North Korea.
So a challenge to Trump, yes. Is there really genuinely something to worry about here, though?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's a lot of things about North Korea that we seem to forget about. We go through these cycles of watching a missile test, watching even a nuclear weapons test, and then things slowly over time sort of go back to the status quo. Keep in mind, North Korea has a lot of other weapons platforms that can do a lot of damage in a crisis. Just for example, they have large amounts of artillery that are pointed at Seoul. Just a couple shells fired from that would cause a major humanitarian crisis where millions of people would try to exit the capital. They have chemical weapons. They have biological weapons. In theory, they have radioactive weapons. They have other short-range missiles that could be lobbed at South Korea and Japan. So when you put all those things on the table, North Korea has a lot of things that in a crisis could really harm millions of people. And I think it's something we have to keep in mind.
Harry, how does a rein be kept on Kim Jong-un, given the fact that he is, to use the term, very much a loose cannon? Is it all about China talking to him directly? What are the devices that can be used?
Well, I think we have a couple options here in our toolkit. The first thing that we have to do is South Korea is very interested in beefing up its missile defense platforms, specifically the THAAD missile defense the United States has. So the United States needs to get that over to South Korea ASAP. Second, I think the United States needs to work with Japan, and maybe President Trump and Prime Minister Abe have talked about this. It's possible to make sure that Japan has the very latest missile defense technologies. That would also include that. But thirdly, I would say to your point about China, yes, we definitely need to be working with the Chinese as much as possible. That may even include some sanctions on some Chinese companies that do business with North Korea. Keep in mind, the Chinese economy literally subsidizes the North Korean economy. They buy billions of dollars a year in mining goods, finished products, all different types of things. If there is even a hint that that type of trade might be lessened just a little bit, I guarantee Kim Jong-un would pay attention.
But Kim Jong-un seems to be hell-bent on developing militarily, on showing this strength that he says he's got or perceives that he has. Is it a question really of trying to somehow, I'll use the word undermine, perhaps that's too strong a word to use, but somehow show that there are other ways, different ways of doing things? I don't know, more food supplies, more food aid, those kind of things?
Well, I do think there is an opportunity here, besides the classical military deterrence type things that I just mentioned. There is an opportunity to talk to North Korea. Now, keep in mind, Donald Trump during the campaign did mention that he would talk to Kim Jong-un. And a lot of people just thought it was just political brinkmanship, just talk. But there is an opportunity every time a new administration comes into office to set new policy. So I would advocate that it wouldn't be a bad idea for Donald Trump to maybe put out some feelers. For example, there's always room for some sort of back channel talk with the North Koreans to see what options might be on the table to lessen tensions. I don't think the North Koreans are ever going to give up their nuclear weapons. Keep in mind, that's the ultimate, if you will, trump card when it comes to sort of deterring the U.S. military. They don't have that. There's really no way they could ever stop the United States or even South Korea. But I do think there is room for compromise, negotiation, a way to try and bring back North Korea into the international fold. I think it's possible, remotely possible, but I think it is worth trying.
Harry, what we understand, certainly not from my first-hand experience, because I've not had the good fortune to visit North Korea in any capacity. It's obviously a difficult place to go to. But from what I understand from reading first-hand testimony is that people there are in want of everything, food especially, products in particular. Is this kind of economic push something China could help with? China supplying everything, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There is levers that the Chinese could put to play, positive and negative. I mean, they have the ability to reinforce, good North Korean behavior, helping them modernize their country and follow almost, as if you will, a Chinese model to a brighter economic future. But at the same time, the Chinese also have that opportunity to punish the North Koreans, if they will, when they do these type of missile tests. And I would argue it is very much in the Chinese interest to do that. Keep this scenario in mind. God forbid if a North Korean missile ever landed in South Korea and killed people, or if the same thing happened in Japan, I can guarantee you both of those countries would respond vigorously. And that's something that all countries in the region really need to avoid.
Indeed, a scenario that must be avoided. And as you say, the range of what is being tested would have those countries certainly within striking distance. What needs to be done, just to recap, Harry, to keep this, to keep a lid on this very dangerous situation?
Sure. First, missile defense for all the countries involved, whether that's South Korea, Japan. I think talking to the North Koreans is also important, done in back channels. This way, nobody loses face in case it fails. And then thirdly, I would offer working with the Chinese, hoping that they can provide those carrot and stick economic incentives to try and bring the North Koreans back into the fold.
And Kim Jongun, as a personality, there's an unpredictability perceived from our perception of this man. Maybe from the other side of things, he's someone who's resolute, someone who's got a clear route he wants to take. How does one negotiate with someone who you can't talk to?
Well, I think there are ways that you could talk to him. Like I said, through back channels, that might be possible. You could try to work with official North Korean representatives. Donald Trump is also very good with his Twitter account. So there's a lot of things that could be done that are unconventional in the situation to reach out to the North Koreans and say, look, we are not in favor in any way, shape, or form of the things you're doing, but there is room to talk. There is room to try and find solutions. And like you had mentioned, the North Koreans are wanting for everything. I've seen statistics where vast majorities of the North Korean population are malnutrition, starving. They have access to the most very basic things unless you're in the elite of the society. So there is incentives to try and bring the North Koreans back in, but we'll just have to, I guess, see what happens.
Harry Kazianis of the Centre of National Interest. Thank you, sir, for your analysis. We appreciate your time. Harry Kazianis there from the Centre for National Interest on the situation in North Korea, this latest ballistic missile test. I think the one certainty that Harry would probably agree on is that there will be another test sometime soon, and how, of course, the world reacts will dictate how things